The Wake is a 2014 novel by Paul Kingsnorth, and it is a novel that I feel like I should start with this because it'll be immediately obvious if you do read it, that it is approximating Old English, sort of. Much of the spelling is the same as it is in Old English, actually. Some exceptions would be, I, while lowercase, is not itch, for example, is the Old English word for I. Some words are also simply modern English. The genitive and dative cases are pretty much ignored. It really reads much like modern English, but with the spelling changed kind of to like a dialect form. 85% of Old English lexicon didn't make it in modern English, so essentially the vocabulary is recognizable to modern English speakers. There are no thorns, no ashes, in the orthography, no F's, for example. The syntax, sentence structure is much more like modern English, with a few exceptions. And so while a little disorienting to begin with, I could actually read this with very few problems. I imagine it would slow down most English speakers quite a bit, as I have studied Old and Middle English a good amount. Kingsnorth does use some variety. At the beginning, when speaking of his wife, he calls her Weef Man, Weef, and Weeman. We also have die, which is day, and something said like da or die. Vogel is fowl or bird. Children is how it's spelled, or children is a mixture of modern children and Old English childer. Shuka, which is a devil, puck, etc. SC is pronounced like an SH here, and though not always actually. So say something like ASC is still ask, like I need to ask you a question. That would not be ash. So anyways, we also have like Elond, or Alond, is island, literally waterland, though it doesn't have an S in it. And you have Yereva, which is reeve, or sheriff. And, GE often makes a Y sound, like Yebor, or eyes, which is eyes, but EAGES. So anyways, hopefully that'll help you if you're reading this. Our narrator himself, though, to get to the story, is from the Finns of East Anglia, where he terms of the Danelaw. This is a character inspired by and based on Hereward the Wake, though it is not Hereward the Wake. The Holland portion of Linkelen is Lincoln, or as he calls it. He is a Sockman as well, and his name is Buckmaster, and what others call him, of course, is that as well. He spots a fell bird at the start and feels it is a bad omen, and does not know what this omen means. So that is a very medieval start. You can get something like that in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and I appreciate that. There are no quotation marks, but this didn't really bother me, and I don't think it really hindered the reading. Everything is cued rather well, and similarly there is no proper noun capitalization, but again, it works rather well. This is, of course, like really common in early medieval writing. That's just what you get. So, at the time the story begins, it is Eastertide. Edward the Confessor is still thought of as king, though he's been dead since January. The Reeve Echard says early on Harold Godwinson is king now. We do have something like, also, this is my random note, Sia is victory or triumph, S-I-G-E, which looks a little bit like German Sieg, and it is related. So, for the novel itself, there are two epigrams. I have persecuted the natives of England beyond all reason. Whether gentle or simple, I have cruelly oppressed them. Many I unjustly disinherited. Innumerable multitudes perished through me by famine or the sword. Having gained the throne of that kingdom by so many crimes, I dare not leave it to anyone but God. Deathbed confession of Guillaume le Bâtard in 1087 is what that is. That is William the Conqueror, or William the Bastard, really. And I also have another one. England has become the residence of foreigners and the property of strangers. They prey upon the riches and vitals of England, nor is there any hope of a termination of this misery. That's from William of Malmesbury in 1125. So there is a select glossary at the back as well, also a note on the language and a note on history, even a short list of sources. I think this note on language really brings the work home, though I'm glad it is at the back rather than at the front. He speaks of it as a ghost language, and he wanted to give a sense of time and place that is specific to the book and, well, and to the time and place he's trying to portray. Well, part of the foundation to anyone that can understand what I'm saying, essentially, the early English did view the world considerably different than we do today. That lends the novel an alien feel that I think works wonders in a lot of ways. So for example, we have Sokman, a free tenant farmer, who were only found in the eastern counties of the Danelaw, and they owed allegiance to the king rather than to a local thane, and they owned their land and seem to have been a high class of independent landed farmer. We do have other things, like it's kind of funny that the name Buckmaster is obviously a name that's not even Old English, actually, and he is our main character. As far as the character is concerned, this is where you get a bit more of, I think, things that some people might like and some people might dislike. Though, of course, I think, obviously, some people are going to have problems with the language. Buckmaster himself, I think, for me, was one of the bigger problems in a sense, because he seems really anachronistic. He is not a godly man, and he holds disdain for what he calls the white Christ and priests in churches. And that just seems, I can't say with 100% certainty that there wouldn't be a pagan in Lincolnshire at this point in history, but it seems highly unlikely, like extremely unlikely. And I think that was a interesting route to go. Maybe I would say it's trying to appeal with the edginess of modern literature and just that disdain for religion or Christianity in general. I just thought it was a little too anachronistic. I didn't really care for it. Buckmaster himself, though, really isn't a likable character, though. So even though he has disdain for the Christian church, he's really not a likable guy. And so most readers are probably going to realize he's not a good guy. So it's not saying, wow, he's awesome, he doesn't like Christianity, so therefore the author is saying don't like Christianity. It's not like that at all. So it's not so trite, at least. Buckmaster says the F word a lot. It's kind of funny in some ways. We also have like more crude things, which you don't normally see in Old English texts, because Old English texts are written by ecclesiastics, of course. That is the literary class. And so we have a gleeman, for example, telling crude tales, like pintle is an archaic word for penis, pretty much. And we have also things like other words that show up, right? Again, stuff that is mixed into with the note that explains it, like law, for example, is Norse, bastard, ire, beauty, they're all from French. This will show up in the story, though there is a word really similar to ire, though it's not related in Old English. It actually has a similar meaning, but still. Anyways, we also have something like William the Bastard, or the Conqueror. He's called Guillaume, essentially, is how it's spelled, which is a approximation of modern French. Guillaume, spelled differently. In reality, he was almost certainly called Wilhelm in Old English. The same in the earliest Latin sources, and maybe likely something like Williama or Williama in Norman. Just slight spelling variation there. So it's obviously where the name William comes from, right? The W to G sound changes as a later one. That doesn't affect English, obviously. So I don't know why I went with that choice. I don't know. Anyways, maybe just to give him a sense of foreignness, which is fair. So Buckmaster himself, though, again, is not a very likable character. He's stubborn, abusive, rather unimaginative, but confident in his own worth, even when he's obviously wrong. Not everyone is like this. He stands out as a particular bull among pleasant characters. He's funny, says he won't talk to his father, but then does eventually anyways. And why does he hate his father? Well, apparently because he embarrassed Buckmaster's grandfather isn't Christian. So anyways, you get stuff like that. I won't spoil it. He does have like a connection to Wayland as like a pagan god, kind of like patron. It's a nice change from the typical Thunor or Woden, and the latter wouldn't really make sense with his status anyways. But we also have things like Litha, which is actually 2 months, June to July, and would not be the start of summer. That would be May at the Anglo-Saxon period, but they calculated their seasons differently than we do now. But I won't get into that. So I do think there's quite some good imagery sometimes, like the poetry of early English. I appreciate the approach to Buckmaster's character. He's certainly not likable. The language is appreciated, though I could see people saying, wow, this is like crude and like kind of like might lean into like making fun of like certain dialects of English, which do tend to be more archaic in some senses, but sound really weird to people speaking like a general English, whether that's in England or the United States or elsewhere. I do think if you want a very approachable but well-researched book on this period, I would try Conquered, actually, by Eleanor Parker. I did a video on it recently. I would say most English histories tend to end at 1066 or start there, but that book covers the conquering itself and the first generations after it. And so it could give you an idea of someone like Buckmaster, as it actually strictly focuses on Hereward the Wake for the first chapter. So anyways, enjoyable book. Not a favorite, but I'm very glad I read it, and definitely does some things that I would like to see more in books. Anyways, I think Kingsnorth does a good job, and I think there are other sort of sequels to this, and I I would need to look into those. So anyways, Ling Fu Moon's ICM. I'll catch you next time.